Previously, Keelan and Tarya gathered up what little remained of the Shadow Spawn for future experimentation purposes. Tornak asked the statue if the Praetors had entered the cavern yet, and he was told they were still on their way. The group had a quick debate over what to do before deciding to try to ambush the Praetors and possibly use the lightning trap against them since they wouldn't be expecting it. They hurriedly made some plans, figuring out who would go where location-wise. It was decided that Sean and Tornak would stay back in the second room that the Praetors couldn't get to since they had distance spells, while the others would move closer since the rest of them were more melee fighters. When the statue told them that the Praetors were entering the cavern, Oz hurried out to try to trick them. Despite being magically healed, he still looked a mess from the previous fight, and he was able to convince the Praetors that he was the only member of the group left and that everyone else had fallen in various rooms. The Praetors believed that was a sign the group had been messing with forces too powerful for them, and they dropped their guard slightly. Then the Praetors started to walk forward, and around that point, they set off the lightning trap. As soon as that happened, the Praetors realized it was an ambush. Before they could react, though, Sean used control water to fill the area of the room that the Praetors were in all the way to the ceiling. They were unable to fight in any way as they desperately tried to dispel the water that was drowning them. One of them finally managed to dispel it after a number of others had failed, only for Sean to put it right back up. The second time, though, she had the water going all the way up to the top of the stairs behind the Praetors so that there was a current pushing them into the room and making it difficult for them to flee. The group fought as best they could, several of them going down and being brought back up. At one point, the leader of the Praetors turned and tried to flee, only for a shadowy figure to appear behind him and start attacking. The unexpected addition to the fight was a man named Thalrizian. The group had no idea who he was or why he was there, but he was fighting against the Praetors, so they decided not to complain. After several of the Praetors had fallen and there were only two left, one of them tried to make a deal with Keelan to let the two survivors walk away. After Keelan said they could leave, Tornak used Thunderstep to dramatically appear on the far side of the room at the exit to tell them that he would be the one to determine just what they were allowed to take with them when they left, as they clearly planned on it not ending up in the group's favor. Oz told the Praetor who he was in melee with to walk away, but then he attacked him as the Praetor did so. The Praetor spun around and attacked Oz, knocking him unconscious. The Praetor then attacked Oz again after he fell to cause a distraction. Tarya killed the Praetor who just downed Oz, while Keelan tried to heal him with his new bow, only to realize that he was dead. He shouted for Sean as Tornak killed the one remaining Praetor. Sean rushed up to Keelan, diamond in hand, and he grabbed her to fly toward Oz's fallen body. When they got there, Keelan tried to push Sean's hand towards the body, but as the diamond pressed against Oz's chest, it was him that cast the Revivify spell, although he didn't seem to realize it. He was surprised when Sean told him that it wasn't her who'd cast the spell. Keelan and Tornak started to yell at each other. Tornak blamed Keelan for trying to make deals with the Praetors, while Keelan blamed Oz for attacking the Praetors in the first place when they were walking away. Tharizian watched the argument occurring, clearly not pleased with the fact that Oz was dishonorable enough to lie about letting someone walk away only to attack them. Sean finally cut into the argument that Keelan and Tornak were having, telling them that it wasn't the time or the place. She told them that she thought that she might be able to do something to help Oz, but not then and not there. They needed to search the bodies, get anything of value they could find from them, and then try to get back to their ship and deal with any Praetors still on board. At that point, Tharizian took off his helmet and properly introduced himself to the group. He made a few comments about the group not being what he expected, clearly not in a good way, but Sean dryly told him that it had been a long fortnight. Realizing that the group had clearly had a few difficult weeks, he softened slightly. Tarya and Vitalia searched the Praetors' bodies, finding a number of items, including a few unspent sky tears that could be used for spell components. Sean then carefully removed some more sky tears from the bodies themselves, getting enough to cast several more resurrection spells in the future if needed. Tharizian revealed that he was interested in the Waystones and was studying them. That was a large part of why he was there in the first place. It was decided that Keelan and Tarya would head up to the ship to scout. Vitalia made both of them invisible, since she hadn't been able to help as much in the fight as she would have liked, and they both swam upwards. As they got closer to the ships, Keelan saw the bodies of the 4 crew members floating in the water, as the Praetors had clearly executed them. Tarya didn't take it well. They saw that there were 2 green cloaks still in the Praetor ship, presumably waiting to pull the Praetor submersible back to the surface. Then they headed back to fill the others in on what they'd seen. The group decided that they would give the two remaining lower-level Praetors a chance to leave. Tornak and Sean would go up in the submersible to try to talk things through with them, and if that failed, the others would prepare for another ambush. While the submersible with Sean and Tornak in it was pulled towards the surface, the others swam upwards and started to climb onto the Praetor ship. Some of them were stealthier than others. The Praetors almost immediately noticed Thelrisian as he threw Oz's corpse onto the deck and climbed up after it, although they didn't recognize him as he wasn't a part of Fate's Folly to their knowledge. Around that same point in time, the submersible broke the surface, and Tornak opened up the hatch to draw the Praetors' attention to him. And that is where we left off.